Hi everyone, it's Rax. Last week I made builds to kill Ashava with every single class, but yesterday when we were able to download the beta client that's coming out tomorrow, we were able to data mine that information and see that a lot of changes, buffs, and nerfs came to the game. I talked over it in the video last night. So I said I would go through all the build guides and update them for what I think will be the best on Ashava. So I'd like to go through them quickly one more time and show you what I think is going to be good for tomorrow. So let's start with the Barbarian. So for the generators, I think Flay is still your best option to use vulnerable. Another really popular one is Lunging Strike, because Lunging Strike gives you a ton of mobility. So maybe you can use Lunging Strike for leveling up. Then you can use Flay on Ashava. Now, looking at what happened here, they nerfed Hoda a little bit. I don't think they changed Ren much. They nerfed Upheaval's Furious Upheaval upgrade, which is very bad for us because this is what we wanted. The other one doesn't help us on Ashava. And they made a lot of buffs to Whirlwind. I'm still thinking that Upheaval may be the best option, but Hoda and Rend are almost as good. So if you wanted to try either of those other ones, it should be fine. Really what it should come down to when you're leveling up is whatever legendary powers you get, go with that. If you get the legendary powers for Hoda, go with that. If you get the legendary powers for Ren, go with that. Otherwise, I think Upheaval will work very well for you. It has still really high damage. It's going to be good at range, and you're going to be able to survive all of her attacks while using this skill. It's going to be a little bit more dangerous if you use Hammer of the Ancients or Ren. They nerfed all the shouts, so what are we going to do about it? Nothing. There's nothing we can do about it. We still got to take all the shouts for the damage reduction, for the movement speed, for the resource generation, for the increased damage, and for the berserking. We don't really have a choice. We're just going to have to absorb that, and they're just going to be weaker. Hopefully those legendary powers that buff the shouts are still in the game. Hopefully we can find some of those, and that will really help you. Leap is still probably going to be our best movement skill, especially for Power Leap, which is going to generate Fury for us so we can throw more upheavals. And then one little sneak attack thing you can do is take 1 point in Booming Voice and then 1 point in Raid Leader. Raid Leader is going to be healing all of your allies whenever you shout. So if they get hit by Ashava, remember they're only level 20 and they don't die, let's say they're out of potions, you might single-handedly be able to keep them alive, which would be huge. So I'm always down to put stuff in my build that's going to help out the entire group, and you're going to be fighting Ashava with 11 other people, so it's a good idea to take some buffs for them. Moving on to the Druid, last time we recommended Landslide, and then Landslide got a big nerf. So what are we going to recommend now? Landslide. Still probably the best vanilla skill without any legendary powers. We will take the Storm Strike Generator. This is going to give us a chance to apply Vulnerable, which is going to make us do more damage on the boss. Landslide with the Terra Motes, as we discussed last time, is still probably the best option. No legendary powers. But Druids, more than any other class, as you're leveling up, if you get legendary powers for Lightning Storm, or Tornado, or Pulverize, or Shred, whatever you get it for, you may have to respec into something else, because they're all roughly equal now. They're doing a nice job of balancing it, so you can really play your own way. But Landslide will probably still be the best option, even after its huge nerf. So here you have a couple of choices, but it's all dependent upon this passive. Now, when I read this passive, there's like two sides of the fence. Some people think that it's just misworded and it's only going to work for the Druid. That could completely be how it works, and that would essentially make this passive way worse than I think it is. But that's not what it says. It says poison enemies take 30% critical strike damage. It does not say from you. So I can only assume that this applies to your entire party. Which means if you're playing with a rogue and it's doing poison imbuement, which they almost certainly will be doing it, combined with the poison from Poison Creeper and getting the extra poisoning here, this could be a colossal damage increase against Ashava for the entire party. So until this is proven that it doesn't work for the whole party, I'm never going to not recommend it. I'm not going to step away from it. If you end up if we end up figuring out that this is wrong, you could take something like Nature's Reach instead, and it's going to give you a lot more damage. And then maybe you don't need the Poison Creeper. Maybe you can take the Raven because the companions were massively buffed, as Blizzard said that they would. Earthen Bulwark, Cyclone Armor, and Blood Howl are just going to keep you alive as you're playing. And we're just going to go with Landslide until we get a legendary power to play something else. For the Necromancer, last week we recommended the complete Bone spec, where you would spec completely into Bone Splinters and then completely into Bone Spear, and you would completely abandon your skeletons and just assume that they would die, and you would assume that they wouldn't help you. This week, I think we should do something different because they nerfed the crap out of Bone Splinters. It was the best generator by far, and now it's really not. You could probably play the same build that I recommended last time, and it would work just fine. But I think we could make a tweak here, and I discussed this with Macro. He's the Necro lead for Maxroll. We talked about it actually on stream for like an hour straight. I think this build we came up with is going to be a lot better. So what we're going to do is we're going to go with Decompose, and Decompose is going to generate corpses on the fight. We're going to use these corpses to resummon our skeletons if they die. Not going to take Corpse Explosion anymore because Corpse Explosion got nerfed. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take Decompose, because this got nerfed, to generate corpses. We're going to go with Bone Spear. Bone Spear dominates, it shatters, it hits them 25 times. This was buffed, by the way. This was buffed from last week. So this is even stronger than before, and it guarantees vulnerability. That's massive. So we're still going Bone Spear. But now we're going to put all of our points into buffing our skeletons. Because the skeletons, they said that they nerfed their survivability, but their damage at low levels is insane. So this is going to give you a ton of passive damage, and you're going to be able to resummon them whenever you want from Decompose. Shouldn't be a problem. Blood Mist is kind of your oh shit button to stay alive. And then Death's Embrace is just going to give you a ton of damage because you're going to stand right under Ashava to keep your minions safe and just to be throwing your Bone Spears. I think this is going to be a great balance, and when you're picking your Book of the Dead, just take things that buff the skeletons and the mages. Don't sacrifice them. We're going to use them this time because they nerf the crap out of this generator. Should be really easy. Just throw Bone Spears when you're out of essence, use Decompose, and if your skellies die, resummon them. Very, very easy gameplay, and I think Necros are going to absolutely dominate. Remember also that you have Decrepify, and Decrepify is going to make Ashava hit less hard, so people are going to stay alive, and it's going to slow her, which is going to apply the Stagger. Stagger might be required to kill her at level 20, so this is going to help out your team. Good news for the Rogues. The Rogue build hasn't really changed much. They did nerf the Twisting Blades cooldown reduction, so that's not good. But they buffed Poison Imbue, and so Poison Imbue is going to be even better, which was the imbuement that we wanted for single targets. So this build, I think, is pretty much identical to what I had last time. I still think the Twisting Blades Rogue is going to shred Ashava, especially if you get that merry-go-round orbiting Twisting Blades buff. You take Puncture as your generator to apply vulnerable. Twisting Blades, obviously, has been a very popular build, still super strong. Dash and Shadow Step to move around. Dark Shroud is going to give you damage reduction, and it's going to give you critical strike chance. Obviously, the Poison Imbuement. And then let's go into Debilitating Toxins to try to keep Ashava's damage low, so you can actually survive her hits. One thing that should be noted is if you want to go a ranged build, Woody is recommending going Rapid Fire, and Rapid Fire looks really good as well. So if you want to go the bow route, you would do a similar thing, but you would take Heartseeker and then Rapid Fire if you want to be a ranged rogue. Rogues, from what I've seen so far, actually have gotten hit the least, so they're still going to feel really strong in this beta. Last but not least, we have the Sorcerer. I've got really bad news, but then I've got really good news. The really bad news is they nerfed the crap out of Chain Lightning, and they nerfed the crap out of Hydra, which were like the two strongest skills that the Sorcerer had. They also nerfed the crap out of Align the Elements, which was probably the best passive skill in the entire game. So they definitely targeted Sorcerers where it hurts the most. But the good news is I think this build will absolutely dominate for you. I was thinking that this is going to be the best build in the endgame for Sorcerers, I'll go one step further. I think this might be one of the best builds in the entire game for any class. And that has been mostly left alone, and it's going to be super strong in the beta, and you're going to probably be able to get a small taste of its power. So really, the entire purpose of this build is Firewall. You can't see it. Firewall is probably going to be one of the very best skills in the endgame. It does burning damage, and then you're going to take the enchantment slot for Firewall, excuse me. And then the enhanced Firewall is going to give them more burning damage. And then they continue burning after they leave. This is very important for Ashava because she moves around a lot. And then with the enchantment, every time an enemy takes burning damage, there's a 5% chance to spawn 2 more Firewalls. So if you can make a build which is just burning her over and over and over and over, and you can pump Firewall as much as possible, then you're going to just start melting everything. So that's why we go Firebolt for the burning. That's exactly why we do that. We don't need any points in this middle row. No classes do that. We're skipping the entire thing. We're going to take Flame Shield and Ice Armor. They have very long cooldowns. Ice Armor will help you with your mana regeneration, and Flame Shield will keep you alive. We obviously need Teleport to move around. Then we're going to take 1 point into Align the Elements. This used to be the best passive in the entire game. They nerfed the absolute crap out of it. 1 point into it is good, though, because if it's been a long time since Ashava has hit you, when she does finally hit you, it'll give you a very high chance to survive it. We are going to pick up the Hydras because Hydras are going to burn the enemies. We're not super excited to pump them as hard as we did before because they got nerfed to crap, but they're still going to apply burning. Then, of course, we pump everything into Firewall, and this is going to hit Ashava really, really hard, especially with all the burning going on and the enchantments that you have. You should be spawning Firewalls everywhere and just burning her to the ground. I also think, again, this is going to be one of the best endgame builds. This is going to be an excellent chance for you to practice it at a low level and see what it can do. Well, that's it, guys. Those are my updated build guides. I think these are going to be better for you. Barb was mostly the same. Druid was, again, mostly the same. The big question is, does the Envenom passive work or not? The Necro has changed. We are going to use our skeletons now. We moved away from the Bone Splinters because they nerfed the crap out of it. But I think that build's going to be godly. Rogue is pretty much unchanged, and actually Poison Imbue just got better. So that's incredible. And remember on the Rogue, if you want to go with a bow build, then you're going to go Heartseeker and Rapid Fire. And finally, the Sorcerer completely changed. Chain Lightning's gone, Hydra sucks now, etc. So we're going to go the full fire build and rely on Firewall to burn them down. I hope you have an amazing time in the beta tomorrow. I'm going to try to stream the entire time, so the whole 48 hours. If I need a break, I'll have Sarah step in and she'll stream for me. So if you'd like to stop by, I'm going to level every class to 20. I'm going to make all 5 of these builds, and I'm going to crush Ashava with all of them, and it's going to be fun. I hope to see you there, and many more videos are coming.